Our program consists of music with a Slavonic accent, music by the Russian nationalist Balakirev, by the emigre Russian composer Rachmaninoff, and by the Czech nationalist Dvorak. Balakirev's music isn't as well known as it should be. He is in many ways the most interesting of the Russian nationalist group. His music is a lot more subtle and a lot more carefully crafted, I should say, than that of, say, Rimsky-Korsakov or Borodin. And it shares with them this wonderful use of folk themes, but in a much more complicated and perhaps intellectually gratifying way, in addition to appealing to the sensuality on the rhythm and the raw color of these borrowed. I've never seen anyone schedule this symphonic poem Russia anywhere in the United States. I myself conducted it 30-some years ago, and delight in Balakirev's music. We played his great symphonic poem Tamar 10 or 12 years ago at the Joy Center, and this is a good chance to reacquaint ourselves with his music. We don't need to say anything about Rachmaninoff, really, except that the Paganini Rhapsody is one of a trilogy of marvelous late works, along with the Third Symphony and the symphonic dances, which have really come to be fully appreciated only in the last 20 or 30 years. Rachmaninoff's music was very much in eclipse for a while after his death, probably as a result of its having been overplayed during his lifetime, and I think a real appreciation of it only comes in the most recent years. The Paganini Rhapsody has always been popular. By an interesting coincidence, the very first performance of it took place on November 7th of 1934 in Baltimore, with the Philadelphia Orchestra on a run-out before the main series began, I guess, under Leopold Stokowski and with the composer Rachmaninoff, who was one of the very greatest pianists of all time as a soloist. The piece is, of course, a fusion of concerto and variations. It's a set of variations on the very famous Paganini Caprice, which Paganini himself wrote variations on. And one critic has said that you get a complete portrait of Rachmaninoff as a pianist in it, both his enormous hands and his capacity for blocking huge chords at high speed, and his extremely fleet and delicate and elegant fingerwork. I find it enormously gratifying to conduct. It's orchestrally very tricky, and it's a good challenge, and especially with a sympathetic and much loved colleague like Alan Goldstein, an absolute joy to do. Dvorak's Eighth Symphony is another interesting Cinderella case. I think that 50 or 60 years ago, outside of Czech conductors and a few British, nobody did it, and now everybody does. It's not as popular as the New World Symphony, but it's very close. It sounds wonderful. There's just something about Dvorak's orchestral writing with the cello tunes and with the rich brass chords and the unisons of woodwinds, which is irresistible and infallible. And I think this is something we are counting on, of course, in performance, because the other two pieces are unfamiliar to the orchestra and tricky. This is a open-hearted, generous work of enormous warmth, enormous brilliance. This is, I think, our fourth performance of it, and I believe it's the single romantic symphony I've conducted most, and it's one of my greatest favorites. So you have a program, therefore, of nationalistic music from Russia and from what is now Czechoslovakia, written over a period from the 1860s to the 1930s, all influenced by folk music, and with a very different approach in each case to its use.